Hello and welcome to Aspen Affairs, the public affairs show from the Aspen Chamber Resort Association. I'm still Debbie Braun, still the president at the Aspen Chamber, and thank you so much for watching this series. You're watching Election 2024, Informed and Empowered, our series on the fall election where we highlight voter resources, share key election information, and break down those issues you're going to find on your ballot. You can find all of the information, learn more, and watch these episodes at aspenchamber.org/elections. Today's guests are Mullins and George Newman, two former local elected officials. But today you guys are here representing a group called A Whole Lot of People for a Better Airport. Gotta say, I really do love the name. You all are supporting Ballot Measure 1C. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
A whole lot of people for a better airport.
They're all outside wanting to come in.
I love it. It feels like a Where's Waldo.
It's a good optimistic name.
Yes, exactly. I do like the optimism. I wanted to start off, before we got the show going, we were just talking about how we personally use the airport. So, George, you've been in public office, you are a private citizen, but you've sort of fired up again and are helping a whole lot of people for a better airport. Why are you inspired, and how do you use the airport?
Yeah, one of the really great things about the airport currently is the scheduling for nonstops. And my daughter and family lives in California, and we're able to fly nonstop from Aspen to San Francisco, and it's actually less expensive than flying through Denver. In fact, my daughter's entire family will be coming over here for Christmas with a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old. And so to have a nonstop is just such a great amenity. And we need to continue to that, not only for the convenience, but also for our climate. You know, the airport is outdated. We have the ability to really try to address our climate change issues by addressing the environmental impacts of vehicles back and forth to the airport, and certainly the aircraft. So those are the reasons that I think it's important to be able to move forward with our airport and look towards the future.
Well, it's interesting because before I was like, oh, George, I kind of always think about you with the environment, not with the airport. But I really do like how you just tied the updated ALP and the modernization of the airport with some really great opportunities to have a better, cleaner airport out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what about you? Do you use the airport? You
Yes.
must if you're
Yes,
on,
quite a bit,
again,
quite a bit.
private citizen now, firing back up to help Aspen and Pitkin County kind of find a way forward when it comes to this aging infrastructure.
Yeah, and similar to George, it's for me, two major things. First is a family. I live here, I've lived here for a long time. The rest of my family lives all over the country, even in Europe. And to visit them, you know, I can't visit them that frequently, but it certainly makes it a lot easier to visit them. If I have an airport here that can get me to Denver or get me to Houston or Chicago, whatever, and then there are many times I even fly to London, and it's not an easy journey, but at least I can get there, as opposed to not having these facilities available.
I'll tell you what is not an easy journey. If you have to drive to Denver and manage I-70, how many hours do you have to give yourself to get down to another airport? Or a lot of times I fly back from Alaska and I'm on a red eye, so I land at 7 a.m. and driving back up, it's terrifying.
Well,
so to have our airport's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because previously, maybe 10, 20 years ago, driving down to Denver was a lot more dependable, predictable.
Right.
Than flying out, but now you never know what's happening on I-70 if Glenwood Canyon's closed or repairs, whatever. So the airport is a much more reliable and easy, and it's not, the fares have gone down in the last few years. I'm finding it not as expensive an option. So I really depend on it, not just to see family, but to have family come and see me. My son is coming next week for my birthday, and it's great he can do it. It's a short stop on a business trip. He can only do it because he can fly right into Aspen, spend 2 days with me, and be gone.
Yeah.
But the second reason, when I was in council, we worked so hard on trying to solve or at least address the traffic issues. we worked with RAFTA. You know, we have the free shuttles. We worked with the mobility lab, which didn't work out perfectly, but there were elements that we tried, and there were elements that stayed with us. But the one missed opportunity was the airport. We could never make any inroads in the airport in terms of transportation. And that's one of the things I'm most excited about with an improved airport is the opportunity to create a really seamless, efficient, user-friendly transit system to and from the airport for the community, which I think would come a long way alleviating the traffic problems.
Yeah, sometimes I think when Independence Pass closes, one way in, one way out, some kind of like neurotic energy for me. I want that ability to get on a plane and maybe get out of the community as well. So the airport really is important to me and my family as well. The Aspen Chamber Board last week made a resolution of support of ballot question 1C. So I was hoping, George, you might literally just kind of talk to me about what 1C is asking and those broader implications of the airport layout plan and sort of like future plans if it's to move forward.
Yes, so in 20 words or less, the 1C basically reaffirms the Board of County Commissioners' authority to be able to move forward with an approved FAA airport layout plan and to then address any of the physical needs of the airport, whether it be the runway, expanding the width of the runway to make the taxiway separation in the airfield safer, and also to be able to look towards a new modern green terminal, which the entire community knows that it's well needed.
Yeah. Thank you. And let's start off with some community values that have gone into the layout plan. How will the design and expansion of the runway and airfield maintain a balance between modernizing and the environmental priorities of Pitkin County?
Well, first of all, we need to go back always to safety. This is the FAA's first priority. I will answer your question. First priority, it's ACRA's, as you said, your members' first priority, and the community's first priority.
Yes.
So the airport improvements are primarily for the safety. They are widening the runway from 100 feet to 150 feet. They're shifting the runway 80 feet so that you have that separation of 400 feet between runway and taxiway. These are both just primarily safety recommendations. Now, the idea that, so it's improvement / modernization. The idea that modernization is not in support of our environmental priorities, I think is a misnomer. Because of the, currently, with the environmental awareness, modernization most times tends to support environmental issues and environmental improvements. In this case, what we're doing with the airport, so the Vision Committee, and it's very important that there was community input for over 15 months.
I know.
Yeah, you were on the thing.
And I was on the character committee, yes. It was great.
Many of the questions and issues that have come up lately were asked and answered during those sessions. Now, there's no reason they can't be asked again. That's fine. We'll just go over that. But many of them have, most of them had been addressed. But in terms of environmental issues, the goals were reduce greenhouse gas and other pollutants. So an improvement, modernization of the airport will allow the newer generation of airplanes to land here. It's giving us, again, so much as giving us the opportunity to take advantage of improvements that will help the environment, one of which is planes with longer wingspan. They're more fuel efficient, they're more environmentally friendly. Eventually we'll have electric planes, we'll have other types of planes using sustainable fuels. We don't know exactly what the physical shape or size of those will be, but we need to design an airport, a physical layout that will accommodate any of those things that are coming coming up in the next 50 years.
Yeah, Chuck Baker from Citizens Against Bigger Planes said last week when I chatted with him that by doing that, that all sounds great, we're opening up a back door for these big dirty planes to come in. And I understand what he's saying, but I think what's getting lost in all of this is we've got to make some compromises. Like, everybody doesn't always get every single thing they wanted, and I feel like that visioning committee, we all worked through and compromised. So when people say, oh, I was on that committee, but I didn't get what I wanted, that's frustrating because nobody gets everything that they want, right? So is there this back door that Chuck's talking about? Do you guys know? And is it worth saying, yes, we can acknowledge that, but we still have to move forward?
Well, I think as Ann said, the next generation of planes, and some that are currently being utilized that would be great for us, like the Airbus 220 at other airports, they do reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They are quieter, and in terms of capacity, we're not talking about a large increase in terms of numbers of passengers, maybe about 40 or 50. And what that really means is that probably if an airline can fill those seats, they'll probably take a schedule off from one of the smaller airplanes, and also allow for more nonstops. I think one of the reasons that you talked earlier about fares going down is because we actually have great competition at this airport. We've got 3 carriers coming in and out, and we know that as soon as off-season has hit, we see that the fares just from United will go up because there's no competition. So our ability to continue to bring other airlines in, encourage more nonstops, that will actually keep our costs down for us as locals as well as for our guests.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add to that, to counter that argument, I think you can look at basic economics. So somebody says you've got big, dirtier planes still coming into the airport. Well, those big, dirtier planes are much more expensive to maintain. They're older, they're breaking down more, the parts are getting more expensive and harder to find. The newer planes are more fuel efficient, they're cheaper to run, they're cheaper to maintain. And so to me, it kind of market driven, the older planes like the CRJ 700, which is going to be adapted to a smaller passenger load, et cetera, and still used in some places. But it's not an economical, efficient plane to be using. There are much better options out there. And to me, people who are flying these private planes and jets, I would be surprised that they wouldn't be looking at the more economical, efficient options.
Yeah, Michael Goldberg, who represents restaurants on the Chamber Board and is also a pilot, has flown in and out of the Aspen Airport. He has always said the one thing you should not bet against is innovation and technology. And each and every time he has, that hasn't been good for him. And what they're doing in that space, in the aeronautical space, for better planes, I think Aspen can really benefit from. And what surprises me so much is in my 25 years here at the Chamber, I have always seen Aspen be the leader. We are leading so many charges, yet for some reason we have fallen on the sword over an aging piece of infrastructure, and I'm sorry, along with the Castle Creek Bridge. We've got real issues with our infrastructure in this community, and we need to take back that spirit of innovation and forward thinking and be a leader and not really just dig into the past. I think we have to honor and respect it, but it's not the same as it is today. So are you guys seeing like people wanting to innovate or people wanting to stop all innovation?
Oh, what a question.
I know. Just like our community, you're out talking to people.
Well, our community has always been sort of adverse to change.
Right.
I mean, that's sort of the nature of Aspen, right?
And I think evolve or die.
And we've seen that in the past with whether it be the roundabout. I remember the great debate about the roundabout. It's going to be the worst thing in the world. It's going to create problems. How well and how effective does it look? Does
it's
it work
beloved now, yes.
And so when you try to look towards the future, what does our community need for the future?
Yeah.
We need a better infrastructure. We need Castle Creek Bridge replaced. We have a failing runway that needs to be completely rebuilt. We're going to see.
And by the way, you want me, like little old Debbie, to vote on like a runway? And like the technical aspects of voting for something like that seems terrifying to me, that maybe the wrong people like me are going to vote for the wrong thing. And so I really do trust the elected officials and the people that have been studying this.
Well, then you're getting into the discussion of representative democracy versus democratic
Which
democracy.
our board spent a lot of time
direct
on.
democracy,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
exactly.
But let me talk in support of standardization,
Yeah.
which Aspenites generally don't like. A pilot told a county commissioner recently, she was telling me, that when he flies in, the Aspen airport looks different. It just looks different than other, and maybe it's the width of the runway, maybe it's the condition of the runway, the separation. You know, it's not exactly the same. To me, this is pilots train, special training to fly into this airport. When we have pilots flying in or flying out, we need to minimize or get rid of any distractions, any irregularities, anything that might interfere with their getting the plane down safely and the passengers into the terminal. So in this case, as much as Aspen doesn't like standardization, I think this is an appropriate place for standardization. And the FAA, their Group 3 airports, 150-foot wide runway and the 400-foot separation is the standard. That's the standard used and the standard that pilots are used to seeing, they're used to navigating, and you start to change that, and you're adding another variable to a very, very challenging place to land or take off.
Yeah, that's for sure. George, how does Ballot measure 1C, ensure that the county maintains compliance with the FAA regulations and continues to receive necessary federal funding for airport improvements? And I've just got to say, these are big numbers people are talking about
These
here.
are really big numbers. As I said earlier, our airfield needs to be completely redone. It's like the Castle Creek Bridge. It's failing. And the cost to replace and redo that airfield, the latest number I received from the county is just under $200 million. The FAA, with the passage of 1C and with the approval of our airport layout plan, the FAA will provide 90% of that cost.
And mind you, that's through the Recovery Act on a federal level, right?
No, it's a different bucket of money.
What bucket of money?
So this comes just directly out of the FAA, 90%.
90.
Now, for the terminal, the latest numbers from the county, it's going to cost about $115 million. The FAA, out of their bucket, will provide 10%. Now, the county can fill the difference in that gap from Biden's administration's Infrastructure and Inflation Reduction Act. Those grants are available until 2026, so it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take advantage of them. So the county would have to apply for them in 2025 to receive them in 2026. And contrary to what the opponents have said, the FAA has told the county specifically that if the county does not have an approved airport layout plan, that they will pursue, that the FAA will no longer provide any funding for either the restructuring of the airfield, ongoing maintenance of the airfield, or the terminal.
George, but the updated ALP is in the hands of the FAA right now, so we should be getting that approval, and those funds should be available unless the community messes this up somehow.
Exactly.
Okay, just going down the train.
The
here.
FAA
Unless I
will-
have to vote on something.
The FAA will probably have that ALP approved in the next month. The vote for 1C is the critical instrument to make
Yes.
sure that the county has the ability then to implement that ALP and then to receive those FAA funds. If 1C fails, then the FAA said no more monies. County, you're on your own. And again, contrary to the opponents, the county does not have the financial ability to be able to make these repairs, build a new terminal with their funds, or float long-term bonds, because the debt ratio that they would have to cover does not exist from the airport revenues. The airport revenues can't cover the debt service on a bond. So this is critical, not only for just basically making that airfield safer, and then, of course, a new terminal, and going forward for our future years.
Yeah.
One thing that sometimes gets skipped over is the working conditions at the airport.
I have
And
some
if you've
friends
ever,
out there, yes.
if you've taken a tour, and they gave a couple of tours last May,
Yeah.
which were very illuminating, the conditions out there are not great. They're not respectful of the work that the people out there are doing. Sometimes you wonder if they're actually safe enough for the people out there. A new terminal, looking at whole new systems, new avionics, new control over everything that's going on out there, could dramatically improve the working conditions for the people that are out there. And though that hasn't been stated that often as a community value, I think people recognize that is very, very important community value.
And the experience of the customers. We all know, we've all been at the airport, at the terminal, when a flight has been canceled and it's during a peak period of time. I mean, you talk about...
Have you seen the pictures of the people outside the airport waiting in the
Oh, the
FAA
TSA?
I mean, it
line?
just is not pretty.
It's
And
dangerous.
It's
we
dangerous.
run guest services out there, and people get really upset and are angry about a lot of things. And there's been-
Justifiably.
of course. So we kind of see a lot of things firsthand as we're in that. Our guest services is in baggage claim.
Yeah, so, again, the community, I think everyone supports and understands the need for a new terminal.
So if you want a new terminal, vote
Yes.
on 1C.
1C.
Yes.
Do you want a safer airport? Vote yes on 1C. Do you
Okay.
want to ensure that we continue to have FAA monies that you've actually paid for in your taxes? You need to vote for 1C.
Got it. Well, it's been really fun talking to you guys, and I think we could talk a lot longer. I wish somebody
We
would
could.
just deliver a pizza and we could just eat and catch up, because it's really nice to see both of you as private citizens, but out with the group called A Whole Lot of People for a Better Airport.
Thanks. And for anyone who wants more information, we have a website, abetterairport.com, abetterairport.com. I think if you get on that website, you'll become more educated, you'll understand the issues, and you'll vote for 1C.
That's great, George. Thank you. Thanks for watching this episode of Aspen Affairs, Election 2024, Informed and Empowered. I'm Debbie Braun, President of the Aspen Chamber. Thank you, GrassRoots. You've been wonderful this election season. Thank you, George and Ann. I really appreciate that you're out there, you're talking to people, and you really care about things in our community. So it's been great seeing you again.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.